Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids, where Monday News Day continues. That's right, more news from Plarium. This time, we're going to see a bunch of buffs for a few champions over the next few days or so. So potentially a patch later this week or early next week, something like that. And there's some pretty spicy changes in here. The first one, probably the most disappointing Christmas champion we ever had, Pyxniel, is getting a bit of a rework. She actually got a big buff before, well, she is getting another one. So here we go, guys. This is all of the stuff that is changing, and there is a ton. So first of all, her A1, Mistress of Glamours, will now be changed to attack one enemy and place Perfect Veil on the ally with the lowest HP. As it is right now, she has a 30% chance to do that, and it books up to 50% chance. So she's going from a booked 50% to an unbooked 100% chance, which is really big. I'm actually not sure what is going to change with these books. I'm guessing it's just going to book up with probably more damage. So this A1 could potentially start to hit pretty darn hard. We'll have to see, and I'm not sure if she cannot Perfect Veil herself anymore, or I don't know, it just doesn't say, so who knows. But anyway, that is what's changing there. Then, this is the big rework. Her A3 is completely changing. The damage is going way up. It's now an AoE attack with an 80% chance to freeze. So this was the old version. Icicle Barrage was a 4-turn cooldown, 5 hits at random, with each hit having a 50% chance to freeze. It would always freeze if it hit the same enemy twice. Funny enough, this actually was a pretty big single target nuke. Excuse me, if you were against like a single enemy, like a clan boss or something, this actually did a lot of single target damage when you added up the 5 hits. So we will see how hard this hits now. I don't know. It's an AoE nuke now, 4-turn cooldown with a 80% that should still book to a 100% chance to freeze. So pretty simple, 4-turn cooldown, AoE freeze. Might do good damage. Who knows? It might not. So it's going to be more consistent, which I think is really good. I don't think people are really using the single target damage aspect out of this. So all that randomness is gone. AoE 4-turn cooldown freeze is a great move. Her A2 is still the same, and this actually combos quite well that enemies who are under freeze, she will attack them, right? And this move also hits pretty hard. So she'll get an attack that will put weaken on enemies under freeze, which is kind of nifty. She can now properly enable that herself. So I definitely like that. Next up then, her passive is really being changed. So it's now going to have a 2-turn cooldown when booked, 5-turn cooldown default. So by default, it's pretty weak, but maybe okay in something like Arena. But for longer fights, you're definitely going to want to book this up. Her passive now is that she will be immune to freeze, and she will get 25% turn meter whenever an ally receives freeze. Now, these things don't have a cooldown. They will always happen. The active effect, which is what has the 5 or 2-turn when booked cooldown, is that at the end of every enemy or ally's turn, removes all freeze debuffs from all allies. Okay, so very simple. As soon as one of your team members is frozen, she will cleanse your entire team of freeze at the end of that turn. Whatever turn that is, whether it's an enemy turn or your turn. So there you go. So let's say, let's say it's your turn, right? And your ally, you've got, I don't know, you've got Kale is on your team. He does an AoE attack. The enemy has a frost set and he gets frozen. At the end of Kale's turn, she's going to remove freeze from your entire team. In this case, it would just be Kale. Let's say it's the enemy team's turn. And they have a Pixniel. She does an AoE freeze. She freezes your whole team. At the end of that Pixniel's turn, your Pixniel passive kicks in and removes all those freezes. Let's say it's your turn and Arbiter boosts you and Torment freezes half your team. Again, at the end of Arbiter's turn, Pixniel will cleanse all the freezes. The 2-turn cooldown is definitely a bit punishing, but I suppose it's not going to be... One interesting thing is, because this can proc not on her turn, I presume then when she takes a turn, it ticks down. So let's say Arbiter boosts, Torment freezes, and Pixniel cleanses the freeze. Next up is Pixniel's turn. It would be 2 turns, but then it would tick down to just a 1-turn cooldown right at the start of her turn. Maybe it's worth building with Relentless because of that. Probably not, but it's just an interesting interaction to know. And her aura is being changed to a 60 resist in all battles aura. So weaker for Arena, but let's be honest, that was essentially completely useless. Now it's 60 in all battles, which is actually a really good one. So it's going to be helpful for... basically Doom Tower is a big area, I would say, where it's most helpful. Doom Tower, maybe some Faction War stuff. Definitely Doom Tower, for sure. And I do think that there is some potential you could even bring her in as a filler champ for Hydra, right? She's going to throw out some perfect veils, increase defense, continuous heal. There, unfortunately, is no use for freeze and Hydra. But if freeze ever comes into Hydra, she's definitely a champion to watch. You could remove freezes, throw out freezes. So one to watch. I definitely think this is a great buff for Pyxniel. I think that's good. She still needs a bucket load of bucks, but she's much more consistent now. Much more consistent at removing freezes. She's going to get tons of turn meter, which will also, that turn meter will help her get the cooldown off her passive. She has an AoE freeze. Yeah, I think it's pretty nice. So I'm happy with it. What do you guys think? Do you like the Pyxniel changes? I think they're pretty good. And we're actually staying in High Elves for the next champion who's getting buffed, because we're jumping straight over to Belinor. So the changes right here for Belinor are smaller but very impactful. The big one here is that Insurmountable is being changed. It is now an AoE attack that puts decreased defense and weaken out for 2 turns. The debuffs can't be resisted when Xavier is on the same team, and it puts Perfect Veil on Belinor as well. And then we're activating Overlord with his Xavier combo skill. This is a massive change, right? Belinor previously put out decreased defense and weaken on a single target before attacking. So he's losing the whole before attacking thing, as far as I'm aware. Now the attack will apply these debuffs. So against a single target in Clan Boss, where he is kind of used right now, he might actually do slightly less damage. So that's something to watch out for if you're barely like one keying Ultra Nightmare with the Belinor team. Might be something to watch out for. But yeah, basically changing this into an AoE decreased defense and weaken, that's a very rare skill. There's not many champs in the game that do that. And this massively, massively ups his value. It's absolutely huge. He becomes a much more useful champion. Then his passive here, Tactical Partner, activates his Sword Leader skill. This was previously his A1. Can he use this? It actually doesn't seem clear. I think can he use this when Xavier is not there? I'm really confused. Or is this only when Xavier is there? I mean, before there wouldn't be a point because it was just activating his A1. But now it activates Overkill. Let's assume that it can only do this when Xavier is there, but he's going to activate Overkill, which is this move that attacks the enemy at the lowest HP with any surplus damage if this attack kills an enemy and the surplus damage can't be critical. It's basically a big single target smack, and he can activate that for free with this one and also activate Xavier's Poison Rain in the same move as well. I definitely think it's an interesting combo, the two of them together. Perhaps smashing through dungeons, Doom Tower waves now with the AoE decreased defense weaken, possibly even some arena stuff, though I think it's going to be kind of awkward to make them work in arena, but there's a ton more potential there. I think it's a really, really nice change for Belinor. He's basically turned from a budget clan boss champ because of his crit rate aura and his A1 giving you crit rate, so he's a great champ for budget clan boss. Now he's a much more generally useful champion. And then finally, we've got 2 epics getting some buffs as well. One epic, this one is really interesting to me, Alika. Alika is certainly arguably sleeper OP as it is right now. I know that Saf from HH Gaming absolutely loves Alika. She does require a ton of bucks. That's the big downside. Tons and tons of bucks needed. But what is being improved is this A3, Disorient. This is being buffed up to increase cooldowns of enemy skills by 2 turns. So a 3-turn AoE with a 100% chance when booked of increasing the cooldowns of all enemy skills by 2 turns. That's massive. Like if you consider that like Basher is coming in and Basher does the same thing, right? 2 turns. That's pretty nuts, right? That's a very rare ability. Very, very, very few champions in the game actually able to do that. It makes it much more useful because obviously your skills go down by 1 turn when you take a turn. So if you go like, let's say in arena, if you go first and you increase all their skills by 1 turn, well, they take a turn and their skills cool down a turn and it doesn't make a difference. So actually decreasing their skills by 2 turns effectively locks them out of their moves for 1 turn. Same as Basher. But yeah, Basher's Avoid epic. He's still extremely good in arena. If you don't have a Warlord or a Yumiko, it can be very helpful for some teams. I know Eherbad uses Basher a lot. So yeah, this is pretty exciting and great for faction wars as well. So I think it's a really nice buff. Her A1 has a good chance to extra hit, which always crits, so just hits hard. Her A2 ignores defense. She does have a cool passive with Sakara. That's not super useful, really, but she's a good damage dealer and now sort of doubles up as being a good clan boss champ. Surprisingly good, but a good damage dealer with crowd control. I think it's very exciting, actually. I think that's nice. Then, excuse me, hiccups today. I don't know why I've got hiccups. I think the final champion, is she in here? Or no, she must be Knight's Revenant. Hang on. Crypt Witch. So, Crypt Witch. One of the very first epics I got. Absolutely terrible champion. She's getting changed though. So, Crypt Witch. Dismantle is now going to attack 3 times at random. Each hit, chance to put decreased defense, and each hit ignoring 15% of the target's defense. So, prior to this was a double hitter at random. So, yeah, okay, cool. Now it's 3 hits at random. Like, 3 hits at random is still just 3 hits at random. That's not very reliable. But it gives you maybe a little bit of a better chance to spread the decreased defense, and she's going to hit a good bit harder, so that's maybe okay. And then not so fast is going to attack one enemy, ignore half their defense if you've got higher speed than the target. What was this before? Oh, ignore defense if the target was faster than this champion. Okay, so now it's going to benefit more from her being built with high speed, which you would obviously want to do. Very difficult to actually trigger this before. So we look at Crypt Witch. I mean, she's got lots of damage, good speed aura for Faction Crypt. A1 does more damage and ignores shield. Okay, then triple hits at random, ignoring defense, putting decreased defense. Single target, ignoring defense if she is faster. She could actually be a pretty decent faction war champ. You know, it's going to give you a little bit of a way to at least hopefully nuke through the Valkyrie wave, for example. Might be all right. The triple hit at random as well. It's going to up the damage quite substantially against the boss for the Faction Crypt too, right? Extra hit. She might be okay, actually. I don't know. It's one that's kind of interesting. She was certainly terrible before. Seems like a pretty nice change. I'd say Faction Wars only, basically. I don't see this being worthwhile anywhere else, almost definitely. But Faction Wars, this could be kind of nice. So there we go, guys. What do we think? Crypt Witch, I think nice buff for Faction Wars. I think Alika, really nice change for her. Gives a great budget option for people for early game arena, giving you some of that lockout right before you get Basher, which is cool and makes her much, much better as well for Faction Wars. And then I think the Belinor change is massive. That's really good. Brings him up to relevance. AoE decrease defense and weaken. And Pixniel, yeah, great to see her actually reworked and maybe being a decent champion now. It's just a pity. I wish in this rework, I guess they can't refund books or whatever, but man, wouldn't it be great if they had actually just reduced the number of books that she took as well. Even leave it at 12. 12's pretty high. You know, 12 is quite a lot of legendary books, but it would be more doable. I think is it 18? 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, yeah, 16, 17, 18. It's 18 books still for her. Is she going to be worth it? Oh, I still don't know, but she looks much more usable even without books. Guys, look, there we go. Thanks for watching. I hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.